Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming along this afternoon. I'm Charlotte and I work at ScotDEC. ScotDEC is one of the three development education centres in Scotland that some of you might have come across us. We've got a centre in Glasgow and a centre in Inverness, and we work together to deliver global citizenship education. So we really bring this social justice lens to the work that we do. And often through bringing that lens, we engage in potentially difficult and challenging conversations and topics. And thinking about how we can navigate those is part of what frames my input today. So we can move on to the next slide, please, Kirsten. And the next one. So we're going to be the next slide as well, please. Thinking about how we can, I suppose, start thinking, first of all, what is a controversial issue? And I think it's really important that those controversial issues are very local. They can be local to communities, they can be very local to groups within communities who have particular challenges that they face. And I think the other side of that is that these issues can be controversial, challenging, difficult for our young people, but also as youth workers, as education practitioners, they can be difficult for us to navigate those conversations because we might have quite emotional or values-based responses to those. And therefore, we have to think about how we can navigate our own responses to some of these issues, as well as trying to support the young people to do that. So I think that's what makes some of these issues particularly difficult. So to begin with, I've put a few photographs here to kind of stimulate thoughts around some of those issues that might be concerning us or the young people that we work with. And I wanted us to think, first of all, about what are some of those issues that are difficult or challenging, or you find difficult to host conversations with for the young people that you work with. And I'm going to invite you to pop those ideas into the chat, please, just now. So what controversial issues concern or impact the young people that you work with? Thank you. So Lizzie mentions racism, concerns around gender, race, and sexuality. Quite challenging conversations to host. Discrimination, biodiversity crisis, local issue to do with proposed new national park and the impact it might have on the local communities, inequality, poverty, racism again, that seems to be something that's coming up more in conversation, migration, waste, climate, poverty and the cost of living crisis, misogyny, eco-anxiety, and some of those tensions that come into these issues. As we know, there's obviously often not one clear perspective on it. So climate change, but the need for kind of jobs and economic development to kind of combat poverty, so that they can become quite complex, some of these issues. Gender issues and racism again. Okay, thank you for sharing those. And I suppose, again, depending on the different young people that you work with or different groups of young people, those issues will be very specific to that group. Sometimes we might be dealing with an issue that has come up from that group that has challenged you or other people within that group, and you might have to deal with it in the moment, and you need strategies and plans for how you can deal with it in the moment versus kind of planning for how you might deal with it. And I think both of those two are challenges that we need to think about when we're working with young people. Thank you, Anya, for adding your thoughts in there as well. If we can move on to the next slide, please, Kirsten. Oh, and the next one. So I find this quite a useful summary slide about, the kind of umbrella term controversial issues. So they're issues that, and I think this slide is also quite helpful to think through what is it that make them so difficult. And I think at the top, that first one, they evoke strong feelings and strong views. And people quite often bring quite a lot of emotion into play when they're talking about some of these issues and they might feel very personally connected to the issue, or have some kind of very strong emotional response to an issue. And I think that in itself can make some of these issues very difficult to work with. And I noticed that a lot of you have mentioned race and racism in the chat, and how you might manage those conversations when you have those with lived experience and those without lived experience in a mixed group can be quite challenging as well. There are also issues which affect social, cultural, and economic and environmental aspects of life. So again, depending on your own kind of positionality within some of those different aspects of society, you're going to respond in different ways to different issues. They often question your own deep-held values, your deep-held beliefs that might connect to your community, beliefs that connect to your family. So again, if someone challenges or questions some of those values and beliefs, it can be quite difficult for a young person to respond to that, or can feel that they're being attacked in some way, I suppose. They are, as I've already mentioned, and as we can see in the chat, that they're very complicated, that there's no clear answers. You can't have a debate and then say, well, this is the answer, this is response. And sometimes there's real conflicts within some of these issues. And people's own views are developed on experiences, interests, and their own values. And I suppose one of the things that we want to support young people to do is to take on board other perspectives, other views, and expose them to other views and perspectives as they're trying to formulate their own thoughts around an issue. They're local, national, and global issues, and often sometimes, the local and the global are intertwined. Young people might have a global view or a local view, and can be supported to understand how there might be connections across those. And that again can help them understand and develop their perspectives and thinking around an issue. And the last one I've already mentioned, but that idea about how they change with place and time. They could be something that happens recent. They can be issues that have happened in the community in the past. But again, it's important that we take the young people's kind of context and community and perspectives as the kind of starting point when we're stepping into exploring some of these issues. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to go into some breakout rooms, and we're going to have the opportunity to think about why is it important that young people are enabled to discuss controversial issues. And then secondly, we're going to think about what, for you as the practitioner, what are some of the challenges or concerns that you have around hosting these discussions. So thinking about why it's important that we do host these conversations, and then thinking about what are some of the challenges or concerns that you might have in hosting them. So we're going to go into breakout rooms, I think, for maybe 10 or 12 minutes, and have an opportunity to explore these two questions. And then we're going to come back and have a bit of a debrief. So please nominate someone in your group who's going to share a little bit of feedback around each of those two questions. So I think Betsy's going to set up the rooms for us.
So I've done that. So there are 5 or 6 people in each, and I'm going to open them now. And you ought to get about a minute's notice that you're coming back, but you know how abrupt these things always are. So let me put you into rooms now.